Hi there, it's Ron McCracken again. Wanted to make a video this morning about how sports and my running in particular became my sanctuary, and maybe a few of the things that motivate me. A few years ago, I think it was 2016, a editor for Dallas Advocate magazine interviewed me for a story, and she gave me it was kind of the Barbara Walters interview. I told her because she was interviewing me in a Starbucks on a rainy day, and she was asking me what my motivations were for running, how I got into it so much, and ended up, kind of telling her everything, and she kind of brought tears to my eyes too while I was telling her that. But anyway, now I got into sports at a very young age. I was about 5 or 6 when I first started getting into sports, and that started with football. And then basketball, and soccer, and then baseball. All the usual all-American sports. But then I was watching the 1972 Olympics and watching Frank Shorter win the men's marathon in the Munich Olympics. I think he was the first American man to do that in something like 64 years or something. And I was hooked. Again, I was already an athlete, so I ran for my sports, but it was the day after that. It was the day after Frank's Olympic victory that got my mom to measure out a mile around the block, and officially became a runner. It's a long time ago. So I've been, motivated for over 48 years now to keep my running going. My current running streak is 7,796 days in a row. Today's going to make 7,797 days in a row. That's about 21 and a half years. When I was about 10 or 11, my parents, that's when they first separated. They called us into the dining room. It was a Saturday morning, like maybe 10, 11 a.m. And they started to tell us how they were going to be separating, etc., etc. And so I only listened to about that for about 15 seconds and got up from the table, walked to my room, grabbed my basketball, and off to the basketball courts I went. About an hour or two later, I saw my father driving his car past the courts. They were up on a big hill at Galloway Elementary School in Mesquite. I saw him driving by and slowing down, and I'm sure he was looking up at the courts because they knew where I went, the basketball being a giveaway. But he was smart enough to just leave me alone and let me do my thing. Ended up I was probably up there for 10, 11 hours. I think it was late spring or early summer, so it was staying light relatively late. So I was up there a good 10, 11 hours, just kind of getting all my frustrations out. Now, again, I'd already been involved in sports and really loved it and everything. But also, at the same time, I also had a very tumultuous family life, between parents splitting up. My brother was a sociopath. And just other drama within the family. So sports really became my sanctuary from all that craziness because, sports had rules, running had rules that you have to go by or you don't get to play or you get penalized anyway. Um, and I kind of dove in head first. I remember one of my grade school teachers uh, telling the class that I ate, drank, and slept basketball. She said, "Ron, you eat, drink, and sleep basketball, don't you?" And I kind of said, "Yeah, I guess." I think I was in 5th grade by then. But again, I became a runner. And that continues. That was very important when I kept up basketball through my freshman year of high school. And then that was fizzling out. So I had a few coaches in high school that were not the most fair-minded people, and really they weren't good people. They treated a lot of us very badly, especially considering we were kids. You're a freshman in high school, you're still a kid. Fortunately, I had run summer track the summer before and had met the head track coach at the high school because he headed up the City of Mesquite summer track program. So the moment that basketball ended, I went out to the junior varsity field house where the track coaches were located. Went out there and talked to Coach Mitchell and walked on the team as a freshman. And I was very lucky I had that because that was about the time that my parents were starting to finalize. They were going through the final stages of their divorce. And, family life was more tumultuous than ever. Just a lot of stress and hate and just not a good scene at the house. As much as my mother tried, I was close to Mom and she tried her best with everything, but there's only so much people can do. And at that time, I wasn't close to my father, and we had a stressful relationship to say the least. So dove into track, and I had that sanctuary. And fortunately, I had Coach Mitchell, and the next year, Coach Robinson came on board, and they were kind of father figures to me. They were friends, but also they were kind of father figures, and they represented stability, which I badly needed at that age. But the bottom line being, I had that sanctuary, and that was important, not just in high school, but in years beyond, in my formative teen years and in years beyond. That's something I knew was always there. Through my college years, through everything, and when I was going through so many periods, especially dealing with, later on I was diagnosed with, I knew I had it back then, but diagnosed with depression, and this all started when I was a kid. Depression, anxiety disorder, ADD, and then the Boston Marathon bombings, that added PTSD on top of all that. It was important to have that, the one commonality, the one common thread running all through my life was sports and running in particular. And then, as my therapist said, uh, you know, the Boston Marathon became my best friend at some point, especially when my friend James died in 2005. He died the day after I ran my 5th Boston Marathon. And I eventually ran 17 Boston Marathons in a row. And just having that continuity that, it was no exaggeration when I told that the lady interviewing me for Dallas Advocate magazine. It was no exaggeration when I told her if it wasn't for running, I would have been dead a long time ago. And it's that thing of having that common thread, that sanctuary, that home, the place where I just always felt in my element. And it fed a lot of things for me. Sports also fed a lot of things for me. Though I've always been an adrenaline junkie, I've always been super competitive, and I still am, and it still drives me to this day. When I was out running last night, after a few miles, I was feeling pretty good, picking up the pace a little bit, and I was running in an unfamiliar neighborhood over here. I moved here in February to my current neighborhood in Dallas. And off to the side, I spied a little side street with a really nasty hill, probably about 200 meters long and really steep and everything. And I thought, oh, I've got to run up and down that a few times. And that's the thing, my legs are probably going to pay for it today. That soreness always sets in, that DOM soreness, delayed onset muscle soreness. I'll be paying for that later. But it signaled to me that I still have that competitive fire. And now we're looking at, it gives me something to look forward to as well each day, and then eventually, if not fall 2021, then April 2022, finally be running Boston Marathon again. The next time I run Boston will be my 18th. I ran 17 straight from 2001 to 2017, but I'm looking forward to that. I'll be back there by that time, 2022. That'll be the first time in 5 years I ran Boston, and that's going to be a joyous day. And already, just thinking about that now, makes me feel. It calms me. It makes me feel good. Even a year and a half out from that race, it motivates me to get in good shape and perform well and everything else. And that's it in a nutshell. I think it's just significant, and especially for anyone dealing with, there's a lot of people dealing with depression, PTSD, anxiety disorder, ADD, other mental health problems. Having anything that and the beauty of running, it's self-reliant, that I don't have to depend on someone else to get out there and run every day. I don't have to do the races. I like doing the races because I'm competitive, but you don't have to. So it's very important to have that sanctuary, a place that you're just happy in, and that something you look forward to each day. And again, it has saved my life constant times. I would have been dead without sports, and again, running in particular. I would have been dead. I want to probably at least 20 years ago, maybe sooner than that. If I hadn't had sports in high school, I may well have killed myself in high school. But I had that, and I had that structure. And see, I had that structure. I had that. Um, that sanctuary that family did not give me. And that's the case for a lot of people. That's the case for an awful lot of people. And uh, that's what kept me going with that. And in a lot of ways, it still fuels me, especially we're facing really the darkest days of this pandemic. And we're looking at a winter. Basically, the American government has abandoned the American people. They're not giving us any more stimulus or assistance for this pandemic. They're just going to give us zero. We're just all on our own. Even though they shut down about half the businesses in America, they're not going to compensate. But that's why we have to have things like this, with running being my sanctuary for me. And I just wanted to share that with everyone. Maybe people can glean some useful tips or motivation from that. I hope so. And everyone hang in there. And as my friend Jedi Master Yoda said, luminous beings are we. All right. Have a great day. Stay safe. Hang in there.